Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome to a Time to Care the Caregivers podcast. Today I have Beth Fields with us. She is a board certificate occupational therapist. She's an associate professor of kinesiology and geriatric health services and caregiver researcher. She does a lot of research with seniors, with their caregiver. And today we're going to be talking about horses. And you're gonna learn why horses in a little bit. Beth, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk more about our uh, program with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this conversation because I find it is very unique, and we're gonna be talking about horses. What are gonna be the questions?
Yeah.
But it's about your program. Tell us about your program, like how it
Yeah.
started, what it is.
Yeah. This is an adaptive horseback riding program for adults living with dementia. The program started out in Colorado at Hearts and Horses. It's a therapeutic riding center in Loveland, Colorado. The program is called Riding in the Moment. It started back in 2011, actually. And
Oh,
I learned about it when I was getting my occupational therapy degree. I volunteered for the program as a sidewalker. So I helped the individuals who were coming to the program, and I just fell in love with it. And I approached my mentor and I said, "Hey, I think there's something here. I'm seeing the impact it's having on the adults living with dementia, their apparent affect. They were just lighting up when they would come. Their gait was their movement. They were just moving better when they were coming. Some of them were starting to talk more. Um, they were smiling more. They were engaged more. And I knew this because I would also volunteer in the long term care facility that they were coming from. So I could see um, the change from their time from their long term care facility and then the time that they were at the therapeutic riding center. So when I approached my mentor, I was like, "Hey, there's something here. We should study this." She was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And at the time, I had searched the literature and there really wasn't much out there for the dementia and equine assisted service literature. And since then, our team, in partnership with Hearts and Horses, we've really started to grow this program. And now we have several centers in Wisconsin who have adopted this program as well.
that is fascinating because I don't think we think about animals as part of our care, but I always find them so therapeutic. I was just telling you, and I'm gonna tell everybody, we just got a puppy. And I know it is a lot of work, but they provide so much care and love for one that you can feel it. And I think it is the same with horses. We really connect with horses and we feel them and feel the connection.
100%. Yeah, there's so much about the horse. I mean, just being around the horse is powerful. There's this theory called the biophilia hypothesis. I'm gonna nerd out a little bit here as a researcher. So bear with me. But the biophilia hypothesis, it basically like one of the um, from this hypothesis is like there's this like innate human um need to be in nature, right? We have this since we're born, we really like are connected with nature. We also like symbolism. Think about like how often as we grow up, we see horses in fairy tales, for example. The aesthetics and just like horses, like and what horses symbolize in like history, like with war and like work horses. And there's just so much around horses, like like horses are just a powerful force. And I think once you get around them, you really feel it. And then there's also related to the research literature, um, the movement of the horses when you're on the horse, like when you're riding the horse, for those adults living with dementia that pass our there's a initial assessment before they enter the program. If they pass the assessment, like the riding portion of the assessment and with our therapeutic riding instructors, and they are deemed to safely ride horses. Not everyone can ride. So there's mounted and unmounted activity options. So this really is a strength-based, tailored program where we meet the needs of and abilities of the people during each visit. But the pelvic movement or the movement of the horse mimics the human pelvic movement. So you get a lot of repetition in the horse's gait with the riding sensation. So it really helps with the physical component as well.
I find that fascinating that I didn't know that the movement pairs our movement.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of like research with other populations, especially in younger populations like cerebral palsy, that like research has shown that that has helped. There's starting to be more adult and older adult literature coming out where riding horses is shown to help with balance as well.
So what have you found in your research? Because you're there, you're creating the literature for all of us. You're creating like what is like the guidelines, so to speak. And I think you're very unique in terms of like these podcasts because most of my speakers have different experience. So they're not doing actual research. They're just experts in whatever field, but not doing research. And you come and you're like, hey, I think researchers come with a very different mindset. Like, hey, what would happen? What are all the variables? What do you see happening? And like you already talked about them being like being more happy, more open. What else do you see happening like for these people with Alzheimer's in their community, how they are impacting their communities, their loved ones, their caregivers?
Yeah, so our team, we have so far demonstrated that this is a safe program, that it's acceptable and appropriate for this population from the providers who are delivering it, from the people who are receiving the program, so those adults um, that are participating in the program, and the family and friends who are bringing the participants to the program. So we've done interviews and surveys with all those individuals and focus groups with all those individuals to really make sure that they are on board with what this program is all about, right? And we publish those findings because I think that is first and foremost important to show that, a program is appropriate and acceptable for its intended population, um, and safe, right?
Yeah.
Especially for a vulnerable population. Because that's the first thing we always get asked is like, is being around a large animal safe for an older adult population? And yes, it is. These centers, equine assisted service centers, they're accredited centers through our professional association for therapeutic horsemanship. They have standards that they follow for safety. They have certified therapeutic riding instructors that deliver the program who are trained to work with these individuals. Before the program launches, the volunteers and staff complete dementia specific training. This is a standardized program, so there's implementation and curriculum manuals that they all follow. Mm. I think that helps make sure that the program's being delivered as it was originally intended to be delivered. We also, as far as like the positive impact on health and quality of life, we have demonstrated proof of concept that this does impact various indicators of quality of life. So earlier I mentioned, changes in apparent affect, engagement, time use, like we are starting to collect balance. We're using our timed up and go which is a balance measure. Some centers that have launched the Riding the Moment program at UW-Madison, we have a data repository, so centers who have the program can opt in to send us data. But we've recently started looking at the balance data, and it is starting to show us that this program is demonstrating improvements in balance. We don't have enough data yet to show that it's statistically significant, but it's emerging. The trends are, indicating improvements. We just need more data to publish that, but we're getting there.
Woohoo.
Positive quality of life that was the goal of this program. So that is the main outcome measure that we collect, and balance is a secondary outcome for those participants who ride the horse.
So, how do you know if you're the right person to go and to receive this kind of therapy? Because I'm guessing that, like, obviously, you already mentioned there is a balance component. If you're getting on the horse, you need to have certain level of strength and balance and whatnot. So, how do you decide who's the right person to ride or?
Yeah, I mean, as an occupational therapist, I'm a firm believer in doing what's meaningful to you, what fills your cup. As an OT, I used to work in home health care. We complete occupational profiles when we meet with clients. When I would meet with a client in their home, one of the first things I would ask is like, what do you want to do? Or what do you want to get back to doing? And, or like, what are the things that bring you the most joy or, to work on to guide our therapy sessions? So I think when people are learning about this program, if horses or nature isn't an interest to you, then riding in the moment isn't going to be your program. And that's okay. There might be an art based community program, there might be a cooking class community based program that's a better fit. And I hope those programs exist for individuals living with dementia. I know we need a lot more community based programs for individuals living with dementia and their caregivers and care partners. We have a lot a long ways to go in developing and implementing those types of programs, funding those programs. But, if horses and getting out into nature isn't an immediate interest to you, then I wouldn't try to participate in this type of program first. If it is something of interest, like if you have an interest, then we always encourage people to like reach out to the center. And then the first step is like completing an enrollment packet. And in that enrollment packet, there's those questions like, what's your background? Did you previously have horses? Did you have interactions with animals? Do you have allergies to any animals? Or, like those types of intake questions we need to know before you come. And then we invite you out to the center where we gauge your comfort around the horses and just in the environment. And then, depending on how the first interactions go, we then will see whether or not, based on health history too, and medical clearance from the physician, because not everyone will have clearance to be able to ride, because some people might not have, the hip flexibility to be able to get on the horse either. Your physician has to
You
be
use
able
the
to.
crane already.
Yeah. So, if you have that clearance, then the therapeutic riding instructor may allow you to try to get on the horse as like a test before the actual program starts. And you have to be able to, I think, follow 1 to 2 step directions and sit on the horse for at least like 10 to 15 minutes, I think, to show endurance. And there's like one other, I think, eligibility criteria. But if you meet those eligibility pieces, then you're deemed safe to ride throughout the program, according to those path standards. So they do all of that during the initial assessment. And that happens before you enter the 8-week program. So that's really the tailoring part, you know, of the
Uh-huh.
program, which I think is a cool piece because the riding instructors really try to get to know who you are before you enter so that they can figure out, okay, what is your riding experience? What is your comfort level around the horses? So that way, once you come to the first visit, we can figure out what activities we can have you do.
So, is there like a pairing with the right horse, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, the horses at these centers, they go through a lot of training. A lot of them are retired retired work horses. So you know, they're gentle, they're a little bit slower. Yeah, they're the training, they go through a lot of, like, sensory training, so they have, like, things I mean, I'm gonna say this in, like, a nice way. They have, like, things thrown at them to make sure that they're not surprised by anything, so that they don't get, startled easily during a visit or session, for example. So all of that takes place before programs start at these centers, and during the visits, when someone is riding, you have the rider, then you might have, depending on the person's riding ability, you might have two sidewalkers, and then you also have a horse leader. So there are quite a few people around that horse to make sure that it really is a safe environment. And if the rider is more seasoned or experienced, which some of our adults living with dementia have been ranchers for years. And this experience really taps into their long-term memories and the riding experience like comes right back to them and they show up in their cowboy boots and it's just like such a fun
Oh,
experience to see. And they don't need sidewalkers, which is just so cool to see. And it's just them and then like a horse leader in front. So I mean, it's so variable depending on the person.
like the last time we talked, we mentioned about you were starting to do research on the impacts on the caregiver. So, what can you
Mhm.
tell us about that dynamic and how going and also connecting with nature and animals can help the caregiver? I know you don't have like precise data, but what have you noticed?
Yeah, so that's such a great question, and I wish we had more, like you said, more data to show the impacts on the family care partners and caregivers that are coming out. My colleague, Dr. Rebecca Lassell, who is at Indiana University Bloomington, she did publish an article around some caregiving data related to riding in the moment that I'd be happy to share with you about their perspectives of the program. And it was positive, obviously, but yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, the caregivers that come out, they just like many of them will say how they haven't seen a lot of them are the adult children. So it's their mom or dad who are the participants. And they'll just say how they haven't seen their mom or dad, light up or smile or laugh or talk this much in, months or years. And some have even started to cry, some have had their parents pass away and come back and still volunteer because it's moved them so much. Some, will start coming and think like, "Oh, I'm just going to use this time as respite and just sit on the property and just like watch my mom or dad participate," but then they see how much their parent is enjoying it, and then they'll say, "Actually, I wanna, like, participate with my mom or dad." So then they'll ask if they can volunteer in the program. So then they'll get trained to be a volunteer so that they can be a sidewalker next to their mom or dad while they're riding, which I think is a cool element. So there's lots of different levels of engagement for the caregiver care partner. I think for this program, when it was originally designed, that wasn't a focus, was the caregiver. And recently, our community academic team has recognized this growing need for the caregiver care partner. And we want to develop and formalize some type of, you know, caregiving component. But we're not quite sure what that should look like because there are so many different levels of engagement. At one point, we were like, should there be like a support group for them during the program? But then we struggle because so many of them also want to participate in the program with their family members or friends. So then you can't have like a support group. So we've we've had back and forth conversations about what that should look like. So we're constantly thinking about it and we'd be open to ideas from the community. So we're all ears.
I think you should start the same way that you start with seniors. What are they expecting? Because you already have a built-in community.
Yeah.
I'm guessing usually we stay close to our parents' sets of values. Well, I think so. I don't know. But I would assume that if you if your parents were renters, you grew up in a ranch, so most probably even if you went away and studied, I don't know, to be a lawyer, you still know how to ride a horse. You might still have those interests. So I think that might be a good place to start. And obviously, the community out there, whenever you're watching this, if you have any ideas, jump in and we'll share them with Beth.
Yeah.
But I think that is like that would be a good starting point. Like, hey, how would you like to participate? Because you already have that community that is
Is there?
quote unquote interest.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like right now we're in an active study with one of our centers, like our local center. So I think, once this study is wrapped up, that might be like a next phase is like reaching out to our our current participant groups and just gauging like their interest to see like a needs assessment, an informal needs assessment with our caregiving group. What would you want this to look like if there was something available?
Because I think there's a combination of things. And if the caregiver is really listening to their needs, there might be days in which I want to be actively participating. Other days is like, I had a terrible night of sleep. I want to sleep for an hour.
Mhm.
See you in an hour.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like just like the program is tailored like visit by visit, can it also be tailored to the caregiver each visit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I believe that your program is so beautiful because it connects with so many points. It connects us with nature, it connects you with your family. What else have you noticed, like in terms of like those softer skills? Well, not softer skills, but that softer part of us, like the connection, the
I think the other thing I've noticed is like the community connection. Because it is a community-based program, like it brings together individuals from the same community that would have maybe never met before with a similar interest,
yeah.
So that has been really fun to see as well, bringing together, people with ranching experience who have maybe felt socially isolated and now they're coming out to a ranch and being able to like reminisce about around like tapping into this long-term memory that they absolutely love. Like some of them have brought in, pictures of their farm or like pictures of their previous horses that they owned as like talking points, which I think is just so cool. So I think that sense of community has also been a source of joy that I should have expected, but I guess it wasn't like an immediate thing that I was thinking about right away.
Of course.
Yeah.
So, what would you like? Is there anything else you would like to share with people out there if they want to try this program or another similar program, or if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, this program so far, we're only in Colorado and Wisconsin formally as riding in the moment, but there are other, similar adaptive horseback riding programs that may be offered to individuals living with dementia in your local area. So I encourage anyone to, jump online, go to the Professional Association for Therapeutic Horsemanship, and I can share that with you, like the link. And you can filter by state and you can look to see like what centers, equine assisted service centers are in your state. And then you can click on their websites and learn about what programs they have. And if they don't have a program that's focused on older adults, or adults, or individuals with, memory, uh, experiencing memory changes, then we need more advocacy for this. So I would encourage all of you listening to reach out to those centers to advocate for programs like this because memory changes are very common. It's not going away. Our population is aging every day. And we're going to need more community based programs like Riding in the Moment. And people want to stay in their communities for as long as possible. And programs like Riding in the Moment are meaningful and bring people lots of joy. So the more we can advocate and spread the word about these types of programs, I think the better. And we'd be more than happy to partner with additional equine assisted service centers to bring them to other states.
I would love that for you and for this program to reach out as many people as possible, not only in the US, but in other countries
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, 100%.
And you already have the system, so
Yeah.
maybe if you have a horse ranch, maybe you want to reach out to Beth.
Yes, yeah. We we are a small but mighty team. We have a community academic team that meets on a quarterly basis online, lots of resources and supports to help your centers launch so you don't have to do it alone. We're all about sharing materials. So, yes, reach out if you're interested.
As a caregiver, I know that this brings at least respite
Yes.
and many other benefits that you might be able to discover.
Yes, 100%.
Where can people find you or reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me via email. I'm not sure, is there a way to share anything online? Or should I just
Yeah,
like share
I
my
can just put your email in the show notes.
Okay,
People
yeah, I
can
was gonna
just
say I have a website and my email is befields, Fields 2 at wisc.edu. So that's the best way to reach out to me. But yeah, my lab has a website where it lists like our projects and you can reach out to us directly there as well. And you can learn more about Riding in the Moment through that website.
awesome. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was great to share more about this program.
Hey, just for you to know, the content presented in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any affiliated organizations or sponsors. If you need additional advice, please contact the right partner for you.